Yo, you're watching the Screaming Fish here, people, and once again I'm here for another video, but this time we are talking about the BFG, directed by Steven Spielberg. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, 10-year-old Sophie is in for the adventure of a lifetime when she meets the big friendly giant. Naturally scared at first, the young girl soon realizes that the 24-foot behemoth is actually quite gentle and charming. As their friendship grows, Sophie's presence attracts the unwanted attention of the Blood Buddler, the Flesh Lump Eater, and other giants. After travelling to London, Sophie and the BFG must convince Queen Victoria, of all people, to help get rid of all the bad giants once and for all. So, what do I think of Spielberg's latest film, The BFG, based on the popular children's story of the same name? I'm gonna be honest, I thought this movie was really good. I actually really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of the better family films I've seen all year, and I can definitely see a lot of toddlers loving this film when they see it. And so yes, this movie is really good. So, first off, performances. Ruby Barnhill, I hope I pronounced that name right, as the main protagonist, Sophie, is brilliant in this movie. She's arguably the most entertaining part of this film, as quite a few times she had me laughing my butt off. Not only but it's also a really good performance. And I'll admit, it's also told me a second time in a row that this is a really good year for child acting. I also found her to be a really interesting and likable character, as well as all those other things. Mark Rylance also gave a really strong performance as the titled character, the BFG. Almost everything he said took me back to when I read this book when I was 8 years old. Not to mention, the motion capture and the CGI used to animate the BFG is incredible. He actually looked real and believable. The film starts off really strong, in my opinion. The relationship between the BFG and Sophie is developed remarkably well, which in turn gave me a reason to actually care about them when something happened to either of them. The giant country itself is also set up well and developed well, and it just looks amazing as well. Not to mention, Spielberg really knows how to create that sense of awe in his movies, particularly in this one. He's really good at building sequences that make you think you're watching something truly magical and sustaining that feel of awe throughout most of the film, and I think that's definitely one of the BFG's strongest aspects. Plus, this film, similar to Jungle Book earlier this year, is visually stunning. The BFG in particular almost looks photorealistic. It's that good. Not to mention, the backgrounds and environments are also well put together, and they look gorgeous. There was also one particular sequence which I won't spoil here that had me frozen in my seat with fascination, and as the scene went on, I just sat there in awe, and I loved it. It was an amazing sequence, and I'm glad I saw it. Yes, there were some other sequences that blew me away, almost to the extent of how I was blown away when I first watched Star Wars: A New Hope, which, believe me, is really saying something. Not to mention, this movie is extremely funny. Every joke had me laughing my butt off in my seat, and surprisingly, even the grossed out comedy in this film was good. However, as much as I hate to say it, I did have quite a few issues with the movie. For starters, the main villains of this movie, the bigger, badder, and more mean man-eating giants, came off as really one-dimensional, and I'm not gonna lie, pretty boring. They're given almost no development, so it was hard for me to see them as the proper villains of this film, which they were because of how underdeveloped, which I couldn't tell they were because of how underdeveloped they were. That is how they're written in the book, but it's translated into when it's translated into this film, it comes off as really being there, done that, and it was probably the most uninteresting part of the movie. I also thought that the final third of this movie felt a bit rushed at times, and it also came off a little messy, if that makes sense. What I mean by this is that as soon as the third act kicks in, certain characters do stuff that at that point in the movie you would think they wouldn't do that, but they do it, no questions asked, or not a shred of doubt minus one scene. For example, that trying not to get into spoilers here, but the main lead of the film came up to came up with a plan to do something with the BFG that literally goes against everything that he lives by, and he literally agrees to it, no questions asked, and almost no shred of doubt, and it really didn't make sense to me. I also think that the movie lost its sense of awe around that point, mainly due to the fact that there were a few times during the third act where the CGI was pretty obvious, and I did end up thinking to myself, that's CGI, which is something you really don't want to think, make your viewers think, particularly in a film like this, when almost everything is CGI. So overall, minus the villains of the movie and that last third of the movie, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of the best family films I've seen all year, even if it's nowhere close to being amongst Steven Spielberg's best films. Overall, really enjoyable movie, and I would definitely watch it again despite its flaws. So, guys, those were my thoughts on the BFG. Do hope you enjoyed it, and as you know, I will indeed see you in the next one. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook. And before I go, I'd just like to say I will be doing another video game review for Ratchet & Clank for PS4, and that should be out either tomorrow or sometime this coming week. So, once again, thank you for watching, and I will indeed see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.